Howdy coders, and thank you for joining us on Project Collaborate. In this video, we're going to be discussing array lists and how to use them. So to start off, we're going to learn how to declare an array list. And so how you do this is you do ArrayList, ArrayList, and then you want to put these angle brackets, and then you put your name, let's call it list, equals new array list, angle brackets. And so what you want to put in the angle brackets is the type of object. And so one thing to know about array lists is they only accept object types and not primitive types. That means you can't use int, but you can use the integer class. And so the integer class acts as a wrapper around the int primitive type, so that you can actually use it with array lists such as these. So if I do integer, and so you do it there, and then you also want to do it here. And before I go any further, I want to have you guys pay attention to this import statement. So an array list, like the array list, is a class that is made within Java utilities, and so you have to actually import java.util.ArrayList to be able to use an array list. And so right here, we've declared an array list. And so essentially, you've noticed that we haven't specified any type of size or anything along those lines. And that's because an array list is dynamic. That means it resizes automatically and you don't have to worry about declaring a certain size. And so if we want to, let's say, add an element, we would do list.add parentheses. And so we can add a number here, let's say 3. And we can do this several times. And let's do one more, list.add 10. So you've noticed that I'm using a method called .add, or the add method. And so this allows us to append elements to the end of an array list. And so the reason I'm using a method instead of just declaring it normally is because since this is a class, there's methods that go along with adding elements. The second thing I want you guys to notice is I have all integers. This 3, this 4, 6, 7, and 10. They're all integers, and that's because my array list is essentially type discriminating. That means it only accepts integer values. And so if we want to print this array list, we can do system.out.println list. If we run that, you'll notice that we get our array list 3, 4, 6, 7, and 10. And so the reason this happens is because there is a method in the ArrayList class called toString. And what toString allows ArrayList to do is, or just allows objects to do, is be printed in a way that the user wants to be printed. And so in the toString method in the ArrayList class, the person who ever created it wanted the array list to be formatted in this way. And so instead of getting like a memory address like you would with with an object or with an array, you're actually able to get the actual elements of the array list. And so that takes me to the next one. So if we want to replace an element, we can do list.set. And then the first thing we want to specify is the index. So let's say we want to replace the 6. That's the 0th, 1st, 2nd index. So you type in 2. And then let's say we want to replace it with, I don't know, 99 as our number. And then we print this out, system.out. And so when you print this out, you'll notice that we have 3, 4, 99, which which was originally 6, 7, and then 10. So we're actually able to replace elements of our array list. So the next thing I want to do is remove elements. So there is, once again, another method. It's called list.remove. And so with list.remove, we can specify an index that we want to remove. So let's say we want to remove the 7. And so this is the 0, 1st, 2nd, 3rd index. The 7 is the 3rd. And so if we just put 3 right there. Oh, forgot to print it out. So if we run this again, you'll notice that the 7 is now gone. If we want to insert an element at a specific index, and so the difference between inserting and adding an element is with adding elements, it happens always at the end of the array list. With insert, we can put an element anywhere we want within the array list. So this is actually an overloaded method. And so what an overloaded method allows us to do is it allows us to have multiple parameters or multiple essentially method headings for one method. And so it's once again list.add. However, let's say we want to insert a 5 in between 4 and 99. So that would be the 0, 1st, 2nd index. So you would specify 2, 5. So that means we're adding it at the 2nd index, a 5. And then if we just print that out. So yeah, between the 4 and the 99, you have a 5. And so you notice here that it's not added at the end of the array list, but rather just wherever we want to specify it to be. The final big thing about iterating through, or about ArrayLists is iterating through them. So if you remember in our arrays video, we used a field known as .length, and that gave us the length of an array. Well, ArrayLists have something very similar, and so if we do for int I equals 0, I is less than, so this part's very important. So if you do list dot size, so also if you notice this part, it's dot size because it's a method, because once again we're in the ArrayList class, and therefore it has to be a method rather than a field. List.size method, and then I plus system.out. And so in this part, there's actually a method called list.get. And so what list.get allows us to do is retrieve an element. And so with get, we're able to essentially access all the elements. So this is a getter method, and then let's say replacing this is a setter method. And so when we run this, let's make the formatting better. Yeah, so you'll notice that we're actually able to print out all of the elements within the array list. So the final thing I want to go over is non-type discriminating array list. So right here we have a type discriminating array list because it only accepts integers. However, what if we want to accept strings and integers, or just a variety of objects? So what we can do is we can make another array list, and this time instead of putting string or integer, we'll put object, because all classes extend the object class. The object class is like the overlord of all classes essentially. And let's just call this list2 equals new array list object. And so if you notice here, we can add an object, list2.add hello world. So we know that's a string, and then dot add 4. So if we run this, you'll notice that we have a list with hello world and 4. Let's make the formatting here better. There we go. So you'll notice we have not only a string, but we also have an integer. And that's because both the integer class as well as the string class extends the object class. And with that being said, those are the main things that you'll be using when it comes to ArrayList. There's hundreds of other functions, and actually Oracle, one of the creators of Java, actually have extensive documentation on the ArrayList class. And so I'll link that down in the description if y'all want to look at it. And thank you for joining us today. If you guys have any questions, leave a comment down below, and we look forward to seeing you on the next video. Thank you.